What's up, Steelers fans? Welcome back to another episode of Around the Burgh. We're live on the Around the Block YouTube, Twitch, and my personal Twitter. I'm your host, Mitchell Wolf, here with my co-host, Shane Kubis. We're here to recap kind of the most recent Steelers news with the slowing down of free agency.
Yeah.
We'll get into where the Steelers stand in a very stacked AFC. And then if we have time, we're going to run through a mock draft simulation for the Steelers. Before we get into that, Shane, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing all right. Like I said, kind of just things are starting to slow down. We're about to get into that lull of like pro days are going to be done here next week or two, and then waiting for the draft to come around, basically. So, I just kind of trying to find stuff to talk about, make sure we cover anything that we do hear about drafts, free agency, stuff like that. So,
yeah, it's where you're just living in mock draft simulators or on your
yeah,
spreadsheet like me, where you're just
spending way too
going
much time
crazy.
doing. Yeah.
Exactly.
So,
All right, so we'll dive into the news first. So the NFL owners meetings are going on right now, which allowed the media to speak to Mike Tomlin and Kevin Colbert.
Yep.
And so the big thing is that Kevin Colbert talked about the GM interview process, and he said they've completed their first round of interviews, which means they're going to do it. And he said they're going to do another one after the draft, even though they've already interviewed 16 people, including adding Rick Spielman and Doug Whaley. And there was one more. I can't remember who it was.
yeah,
But those two names I remember because they're obviously former NFL GMs.
yes, they are. Yeah.
So that's I'm just still surprised. Like, okay, we're still going to keep it. We're going to keep interviewing people even after the draft, and we'll figure it out. It's wild.
Yeah, I mean, I assume that obviously there's going to be a significant cut down of people they re-interview, so we'll kind of have a better idea of where they're actually looking once that happens, I guess. But it makes sense why at this point they're just all in on getting ready for the draft, and then they'll deal with it after the fact because it won't change anything right now anyway. So
yeah, and as we've said this whole time, we expect it to remain in-house and probably be Brandon Hunt, so that
probably
won't really change. And and then bringing a guy like Doug Whaley, who has been in this front office before, like on the off chance he comes back, he's obviously be familiar with the players and the structure, everything, so that would make a lot of sense too. They also talked about how they feel good about the starters at every position, pretty much, or at least the competition there, except for strong safety. And Colbert basically said, we are kind of still interested in bringing Edmonds back, but we're pretty much out on Tyrann Mathieu, which is interesting.
Yeah, that makes sense. I didn't really think, like, I know we heard a lot about it, and it would have been obviously a big boom to be able to do that, but I'm not surprised that they're not in on him. I think he's really kind of narrowing it down to just a couple places that he's even considering. So
yeah, and he's like, I think this is his fifth contract or his fifth team or something. So I think he's a little up there in age. So I think and obviously, like, I'm still a big fan of them getting Edmonds back, and I think they'll be able to do it on a pretty cheap price tag. So I would be very excited at that. I wonder if they'll have to wait until even after the draft for Edmonds.
Yeah, I mean, I think the problem with that is, like, ideally you'd want to know whether or not he's willing to come back, because if not, drafting a starting caliber safety is something that you have to do that.
Yeah,
like it's not something you can really afford not to, unless you're really confident even after the draft that he might still come back. But then you're playing with fire a little bit because you don't want to have to go in without knowing what your safety is going to be. So
yeah, and I seem to remember, and it might have changed again, but on his Twitter, at one point I can't remember, I don't know exactly the timeline, but he either removed or even put back, Steelers safety in his Twitter bio. So, for the people who are tracking those kinds of things, there was some kind of change.
There was at one point. I remember specifically he always had it in his bio, and then it was removed. And then right now, I don't know if it's in there again or not, but I know he did remove it.
It's not there currently, so I imagine that he is, and which makes sense. He is a free agent,
right?
I thought somebody was saying, maybe that he's like, oh, he's putting it back and he's going to sign again, but I don't think that's
I don't think that's really where we're at with it right now. No.
Yeah, which, I think they'll get that done soon. So the other news from the meetings is that Tomlin and Colbert talked about moving Kendrick Green to guard, which is interesting, which makes sense given the signings they made. And I don't think they're saying like we're going to do this, but they're saying, okay, like maybe we'll give him some snaps there and see if it goes better, in training camp and in the preseason, see how it goes.
Yeah, and I've heard a lot of arguments against it recently because of his size profile for a guard. And like the problem is he's going to be small no matter where you play him, right? I'd rather play him in a position I think that his skill set would fit better at. And at this point, I think he'd be a better guard. So if you're trying to maximize his ability to become a true NFL player and not just the guy we saw last year, I do still think it's a guard. Now, will it make a huge difference ultimately? hard to say, but it at least give him a better chance of sticking around, even if it's a backup or whatever it might be.
Yeah, I expect him to be probably one of the starters this year, honestly.
Yeah,
and I think, but I think,
yeah.
which I mean, he can't be much worse than he was last year. So
Yeah, you're right. So
I
it's hard
think,
to say, but
giving him some more competent players around him will help. And if he has more time to work with Kevin Dotson and James Daniels, they all get comfortable with each other. I would imagine they'll all improve, and I would imagine they'll kind of play some musical chairs during training camp and OTAs to see which positions everybody's most comfortable at. Because Dotson was a right guard in college. He's played left guard here. Daniels has played all three spots. Mason Cole has played basically every spot. Green played mostly left guard in college. So, Mike Tomlin is just a big fan of that versatility. So
yeah, and I don't blame him. I mean, with the way the offensive line was last year, just bring in guys who have comfortability playing in different spots, so you have the opportunity to try to figure out what best combination of five guys is going to give you the best outcome. I think it's primarily going to be, is Cole going to supplant Green as a center, and then where does Green play from there if he does continue to play? Like, that's what I think the biggest thing we could see happen is if Cole can beat him out as a center, because I think Daniels, even though I liked him as a center prospect and he played well whenever you had limited snaps there, he had such success at right guard last year that I wouldn't want to move him off that spot unless he really either wants to or thinks he can. But that's the one thing about it, because of how much versatility there is, it's really hard to say right now what they think the best five is going to look like right now.
Yeah, I think for me, like, my idea would be Daniels at left guard, Green at center, and Dotson at right guard.
Yeah.
Because I think that way you take advantage of Daniels' athletic ability more.
Yeah.
Just as the puller on most strong side gap plays, and you use Dotson as more of the drive, using more of his strength and getting him back to a more position he's more comfortable in.
Right.
But that's obviously not up to me. But the other news was that they said they expect Stephon Tuitt to be back in some capacity. He is like on the roster. They don't expect him to be like retiring or anything. Like, they have talked to him. They're not sure exactly what's going to happen, but they're saying he's probably going to be back, or they haven't said that, but they've implied that he's going to be back this season, which is great. But, in the event that he has to miss time, I think they're comfortable with a guy like Chris Wormley being that third defensive lineman. Maybe they rotate Alualu to make sure he doesn't get hurt again. And now they've kind of found this gem they've found two gems with Isaiah Loudermilk and Montravius Adams.
Yeah, having those guys having established themselves last year.
And even Carlos Davis, who had some nice snaps 2 years ago.
Yeah, he did. So having those guys in there, though, does make it less of a concern for me, as much as I want to see Tuitt back, obviously, and hopefully immediately. Yeah. It's not going – how it played out last year is not going to be what happens this year, I don't think, not with the fact that those two played significant snaps and were able to do well. So
yeah. Let's see. The other news is that they signed Jannard Avery, who's been on a few teams. I know he's been on the Browns, and the Eagles. I think that's it.
Maybe another team I'm trying to remember too, but at least those two for sure.
But so he's a very interesting player, just because he's played a lot of different positions. He's played like off-ball linebacker in a 4-3 defense. He's played a defensive end in a 4-3 defense. And I'm not really sure exactly where he'll play in the Steelers defense. We were talking about this before the show. We imagine that he'll play as a backup outside linebacker playing on the ball, and they might, put him between the tackles or between the guards as kind of a movable chess piece that they like to, exploit some matchups and maybe even they put him as an off-ball linebacker on very obvious rundowns. Maybe they rotate Bush off and then move Jack to the other side and then have him be the strong side backer on very obvious rundowns or something like that.
Yeah, something in that vein. I think that's the best way to use him from what I've seen of him. So I imagine a guy like him, they're signing him for a reason, not just to be like a straight up third edge guy. Like, he's going to get moved around a good bit in the defense, most likely, if he gets playing time.
Yeah, and we were just looking at the roster, and they, the next guy up at edge was Derek Tuska behind Watt and Highsmith. So having another guy who has a good amount of NFL experience and can be a player was very important. So that's a good signing in my mind. Let's see. Let's get into stacking the teams in the AFC. So obviously this offseason has been probably the craziest in NFL history, just with the amount of talent that's been moving, quarterbacks and wide receivers going from contenders to contenders, if you will, mostly just switching to the AFC from the NFC. So it's interesting for the Steelers, who are, not in their most competitive position they've been in the last 20 years or so, but there's been plenty of times that the NFL has counted them out, and they've pretty much been in the thick of that in terms of the playoff race. So how do you want to attack this exactly?
I mean, I think probably first we should probably just go over like stacking the divisions themselves, like as far as in the tiers, as far as like who we think is best, whatever.
Yeah.
And then we can kind of look at it from, okay, who do we think are the best teams in those divisions? How do they stack up against each other? Kind of go from there. That'll help us give a better idea of what we're like looking at here, I think.
All right. So I think the AFC South is clearly the worst division.
They're definitely being left in the dust a little bit.
Because there are 2 playoff teams, and then there's 2 teams that are in the throes of a dramatic rebuild.
Yeah. So
you Titans and the Colts. Colts are now, I think, in a better position with Matt Ryan as opposed to Carson Wentz.
Yes, I think so.
They've still got some holes to fill, but I think they're pretty close to what the Titans are, honestly.
Yeah.
So, and then Texans and the Jaguars are not a concern.
No.
Next division for me would probably be AFC East.
Yeah.
So you've got the Bills as a conference champion contender.
Yes.
Patriots are a returning playoff team. They've lost a good amount of guys, so they might drop back a bit again. Dolphins have made some moves to add and get better. I'm still not a Tua believer whatsoever.
No, me either, not really, but
there's always just because of who we work with and who we follow.
Yeah.
There's just so much Tua discourse. I'm just like, is this guy really worth all of this?
Yeah, that's the thing that bugs me is like, so whenever he came out specifically too, is like, I liked him at Alabama. I thought he did a really good job for them, but you could see the limitations he was going to have, right? Like you could tell he's not going to be this elite thrower of the football as far as arm talent wise. He's going to have to be perfect in a lot of ways, like really, really good accuracy, timing. All this stuff was going to have to be really good. And going to the Dolphins with an offensive line like they had, admittedly, he hasn't really had a chance to play the way that he probably needs to have a chance to be successful.
Yeah.
But this year, he should get that opportunity with everything they've done. So at the very least, we're hopefully going to know a lot more about him as a player this year, and we can kind of hopefully put it to bed after that.
But and like even if we do, I just don't really care.
Yeah, I don't.
About him. Like
I don't either. But like that whole discourse, like I think that we're going to have. This is going to be the best opportunity. People who don't believe in him and believe in him have the chance to fairly evaluate him within an offense that actually has a chance to be good. Yeah. So we'll see how it goes. But
and then the Jets, I think, are slowly going to get there. I think they're at least another year away. But
yes,
I don't think of them as a playoff team. So then you've got the 2. I don't even know how to describe this because I mean they're both very deep divisions, but yeah. I mean, I could see all 8 of the teams in the North and the West making the playoffs, honestly.
Yeah, it'd be surprising to me if they're not all right there in some way, shape, or form, whether they're at the top, obviously some of the elite teams, and then even the teams like they're looked at as kind of the guys falling back, including us right now. We're likely going to be in that conversation, if nothing else, by the end of the year.
Yeah, and a lot of that is just my faith in Mike Tomlin, just because no matter what, this team is always competitive. Even when Mason Rudolph and Devlin Hodges are the quarterbacks. And say what you will about Mitchell Trubisky, but he is significantly better than those 2.
Yes. And I think the thing for me, and this is what's going to make it so interesting, is like we're going to be a more talented football team next year than we were last year overall. So the fact that we made the playoffs in that
assuming there aren't more catastrophic
injuries.
Obviously.
Yes. So we never want to plan for that, obviously, or at least think about it. But we should be a much more equipped team to play actual offense and not whatever it was we saw most last year. Regardless of how you feel about Trubisky, he at least gives us a shot at doing some different things. And the defense, assuming, like you said, things can, guys can stay healthy, and especially if Tua comes back, and just projected growth from guys like Bush, hopefully getting better and stuff like that. This team should be better. It's just whether or not it's going to matter because of how much better the AFC got. That's really what the question is.
Yeah, I totally agree. All right, so I think it's probably best to at least start this at the end. So let's start with the bottom, and I think we can safely say that. Let's say I think the Jaguars are probably the worst. Or do you think Jaguars or Texans are worse?
I think the Texans are a worse roster by not a ton, obviously, but the Jaguars at least threw money at players to give them at least a little bit higher of a floor, I think, hopefully. Yeah. And they have an adult at coach
I was just going to say they have a competent adult as the coach now.
And a quarterback that has a ton of upside if he can get things rolling. So I'll say that right now, give the Jaguars at least a little bit of an edge over the Texans.
Okay, yeah. So I would say going in ascending order, I would say it's the
Yes.
Texans, the Jaguars, and then the Jets.
Yep.
And really after that, there's a big gap to
Yeah,
the
there's
playoff
really a
teams.
pretty significant gap in terms of just teams, the way
And
the rosters are set up. Yeah.
and I think for that reason, now we should start from the top down
Yeah,
so we can get those
let's
teams out of the
yeah.
way. So and it's still tough because like
It is.
I would think that in my opinion, I think the Bills are the best team in the
That's what
AFC right
I
now.
actually completely agree with you. I think
Okay.
that as we look at it right now, they're the team that was fantastic last year and has
Mhm.
had the least amount of turnover really
Yes.
in the
Yeah.
roster, even though some of the turnover in the other rosters are good turnover,
Yes.
hopefully.
Hmm.
I feel most confident about knowing what this team is able to do. So
Yes. Yeah.
I think that right now you kind of have
Yeah.
to give them a slight edge over the other team.
Yeah. And then I would still put the Chiefs too, even though they've still got a good amount of holes to fill on
Yes.
defense.
Yeah.
I'm I get that, Tyreek Hill was, one of the 3 best wide receivers in the NFL for the last, 6 years or whatever.
Right.
But I think getting rid of him, especially for the haul they got, was a smart decision because
I think so.
obviously this is very similar to like the Moneyball argument where it's like when you get rid of those guys that are like the player, and we're gonna try to replicate their stats spread out amongst a bunch of
Right.
players. Like you're not gonna replace Tyreek Hill with Marcus Valdez Scantling and Juju Smith-Schuster and Mecole Hardman individually, straight up. But you can do stuff. You can do stuff with all of them in different ways that makes your offense still run more effectively, or not
Yeah.
run as effectively. Sorry.
Yeah, and I feel like the thing with it too is, especially this past year, Mahomes had to really change the way that he played
Hmm.
within that offense, even having Hill there, because as great as Hill is, at some point defenses are going to be able just to say, "Hey, you're not going to just run past us down the field." Like
Hmm.
that big play element of the 50-yard, strikes that just tore defenses apart.
Hmm.
That wasn't as much of an element with them because teams refused to basically let it happen. And they got accustomed to that, and Hill was a big part of that with his lateral quickness and being able to get open in short areas too. But
Hmm.
that's something that, as great as he is at that, you can replicate that skill set. You can get guys who can do at least enough of that and good enough that it's not going to cripple their offense or anything like
Hmm.
that. That's really all they have to do. So they're probably not going to be quite as dangerous, obviously. But when you have a quarterback as good as Mahomes, it's not going to all of a sudden be like, oh, well, now they're the 15th best offense or something like that.
Yeah.
It's not going to
Yeah.
be like that.
Again, this is about like opportunity cost, resource
Yes,
allocation, and like again, like you said,
100%,
like Mahomes can be that elevating factor that
100%,
makes a B receiver an A receiver.
100%. Yeah,
All right. So after that, this is where it gets pretty tough.
yeah.
I would
I'm,
think that the contenders are the Bengals, the Ravens, the Chargers, and the Broncos.
I was about to say the same thing, and I'm right now. I'm kind of leaning towards giving the third nod to the Chargers, just because I really love almost everything they've done,
Hmm.
especially on their defense. Especially assuming they target a linebacker at some point in the draft, that starting caliber to kind of
Hmm.
round out that team. Losing Kaiser White, I thought was a weird miss on them, but
Hmm.
if they can address that position, especially,
Yeah.
all it comes down to in my opinion, at that point is, can this team finally stay healthy and put complete games out there week after week? But they're going to be right there talent wise with everybody else, at least.
Yeah, and I think that they're gonna address, they have like just a few holes here and there. Like they
Yes,
still have some offensive line issues. I think they're
that's
gonna
true
address
too.
those in the draft.
Yeah, I think
Maybe
so
get
too.
Herbert another weapon. Um, so I think I would agree there that third team. But I think this tier of teams is really close.
Yeah, they're all right together. It's
Yeah,
just
because
who do you trust more? Who do you
yeah,
think is
because
more
I
likely?
would say the
Yeah,
Broncos and the Bengals are next, and they're really close.
yeah,
Obviously Broncos get Russell Wilson.
yeah.
They had a pretty complete roster aside from a quarterback until they made this trade. They didn't give up too many great players such that it made them take a step back. They
Right.
need to find a new right tackle, and their defense, they need some pieces, but I wouldn't say there's like glaring weak spots right now.
No, I think that with a Russell Wilson level quarterback, they're clearly one of the better teams in the AFC just from that, because, like you said, their roster was already very good,
Yeah.
and they competed for a lot of last year. I mean, they started off, I think,
Yeah.
with 3-0 or whatever it was
Hmm.
before they
Yep.
faced us. Like,
Yeah.
they were already capable of hanging around in the playoff picture with a
Hmm.
really bad situation on offense
Yeah.
for most of the year. So giving them Wilson, assuming he doesn't have any, again, he didn't have any injury issues prior to last year, so I'm not really worried about that. Minus him getting hurt, I don't see this team finishing very low outside of the playoffs or anything.
Yeah,
like
I would agree with that. And then I just always expect the Ravens to be in it.
Yeah,
kind of like the Steelers. Just I think that their defense is going to be like they were just so hurt last year.
It can't there's so much positive regression just from that, right? Like you can't expect half of your team or more in some cases, depending on where you're looking at on their team, to just straight up not be there the entire year, basically. Like
I think also their defensive shift, like they moved on from Wink Martindale. Now they brought in Mike McDonald from Michigan. I think this is very similar to what Michigan went through, honestly, getting rid of Don Brown and bringing in Mike McDonald, is that you go from this extremely blitz heavy defense where you are putting a lot on guys' plates where and it's a very high variance situation where it's like it's either really good or really bad. And when you guys get hurt, then it becomes a really big problem. And I think that having a simpler defense with McDonald as the guy, I think his name is McDonald.
I think so. Yeah.
Whoever the new defensive coordinator is, I think he'll simplify the scheme that defense will be more. It'll be less volatile, more consistent, and they'll be able to rely on it a little bit more. And obviously, they're always a good defensive team. So,
yeah, for sure. So they
Lamar,
just need to do that.
I think Lamar's going to be. I think he's going to be kind of out for revenge this year. And
I think so too.
This is his contract year, basically.
That too. I am curious what that contract ultimately looks like. I have to imagine, obviously, it's going to get done at some point in the next calendar year. Obviously,
yeah.
It's going to be interesting because, like you said, if they do take that approach on defense of just trying to get everything more simple, allow them to just play and not have to worry about variance week to week especially with some of the way the quarterbacks can handle pressure in the AFC right now.
Yeah,
I would rather back off a little bit more and try to just play defense, especially with the rushing attack that you expect them to have. That's going to play off each other very well, assuming they can get back healthy there.
So right now our order stands: Bills first, Chiefs second, Chargers third, Broncos fourth. And actually, the Bengals fifth. I don't know if we really discussed them.
No, the whole thing with the Bengals is I think that they're going to, instead of having a chance to back off of their success this year, they made enough moves on the offensive line for me to think that they can replicate their success to a certain degree. Right? That's where I'm at with them.
I honestly don't love the guys they signed. I don't really.
Yeah, it's better than they had to.
It is that's true. That's
kind of what it is.
But it's an improvement to a league average, which, I do. They still have some issues at corner.
Yes,
it's Eli Apple's the guy there right now, so that's concerning. So I imagine they're going to be drafting that position aggressively in the draft. They also have to fix. I think they need a 3 tech, but I think they'll have some offensive regression as well. So the question is how much room do you have before you fall out of the playoff race just in this division?
That is going to be the tough thing. It's going to be a lot harder for them this year, simply based on the way the rest of the AFC handled their off seasons.
So I think I would say that the Bills and Chiefs are kind of in their own tier. Then I would say the Chargers and Broncos are in another, and then I would say the Bengals and Ravens are in another.
I think that's fair because you trust the other teams a little bit more.
Yeah.
Or with the Chargers case, they just did so much to improve their team. It's kind of hard to not assume that they can take another leap up this year.
So then I think it's the next group of teams is also pretty close. And I would say it's the Raiders, the Titans, and the Patriots, which are all kind of Belichick-ish teams, which is interesting. I'm not ready to throw the Browns in that group yet.
Because we won't know.
Especially because if we, even without Watson's impending suspension, I'm still just not sure about that team.
Don't know. It's really hard at this point, but especially factoring that in, we don't know what the team is going to look like the first half of the season roster wise a little bit. So
I think I would put the Titans as the 7th team just because they didn't make a ton of changes, but they're still very married to their identity. And they're going to be fine with that. And again, they don't have a very tough division, but we're kind of just ranking teams regardless of that.
For sure.
Next, the Patriots and Raiders are tough because they both still have a lot of holes, to be honest.
That's the problem is I'm not willing to do it yet just because I want to see what kind of little moves they can make with the rest of the offseason. Also what players they can bring in draft wise with the limited draft capital they have. I'm in this weird spot. I know I'm not a big Tua guy, like you said. The Dolphins intrigue me because with that type of offense that they're going to have with McDaniel there, they have a much higher floor, I think, of a team than they've had. They're not going to have, I don't think, these wild swings of the 1-7 to I think they could be more consistent. The Patriots just lost a lot, and I know it's the Patriots, and like,
there's one of their starting outside corners is Jalen Mills.
Right.
That's
like,
a massive issue.
It's just, again, it's like the Patriots, they do this every year. Like, they find ways to make it work. But like, at some point, the Dolphins just clearly got a lot better and the Patriots did not.
Yeah.
So it's, to me, like, I'm kind of almost ready to start wondering if they can leapfrog them this year specifically.
I won't go that far just because of.
I'm not quite ready to yet either, but I'm not surprised if it happens.
So the question is, do you believe in the Raiders more than the Patriots?
Oh man, I mean,
and again, this the problem is that the Patriots are really only looking up at the Bills, whereas the Raiders might be looking up at the rest of the division.
That's the problem. They have to play that, like, playing in that division is just,
and the Raiders have a lot of retooling to do on the offensive line, and their defense is also kind of going through an overhaul. Like, they're making a complete like scheme shift, away from the Gus Bradley defense to a Patrick Graham defense, which again is more of a hybrid type, but still like, and they do bring in Chandler Jones, but their secondary is suspect. I don't really even know who their linebackers are. So I think I'm just gonna.
I still trust the Patriots more. Now.
I agree. So
I think the Raiders have more upside.
Yeah,
but I'm not willing to pick them. Like, because if the Raiders hit on everything they're doing right now, and like Carr and Adams light it up, and the offense is great, Jacobs is healthy, they can run the football with him. I think that they could end up being a better football team next year, but there's not that guarantee at this point for me. Like, I'm not willing to say that it's going to happen until I see it.
Right. Okay. So we have 4 teams left in the conference, and it's the Dolphins, the Browns, the Steelers, and the Colts.
The Colts, I kind of want to put them next, honestly, because like adding Matt Ryan opposed to Wentz and not really losing much at this point. At least not pieces that I'm like super worried about.
Their defense is going to be weird because
it is weird. Yes,
they're making a very weird scheme change. Like, they're going against a scheme change, and they've been using that scheme for almost their entire long time.
Yes,
and the Gus Bradley defense is obviously not the most successful and efficient defense. So
no, it is. It's interesting, that move, for sure. I don't really still understand that much, but
I definitely trust the Browns and the Colts, I think, more than the Dolphins, honestly.
That's I
think
not
that's trying to stack those two. So I think these are the 10th and 11th teams. So
I'm
just gonna put 10/11 for both.
Because I think that it could go either way for those teams. Because I think the Colts,
and again, the Colts just have a much easier path.
They do,
because they get.
Ryan gives them a nice floor.
Yes,
opposed to Wentz, who knows?
Because say what you about the Falcons, like that terrible roster, went 7-10.
Yeah,
basically just because of Matt Ryan. And
Matt Ryan was like, "I'm a professional quarterback, so I'm not losing 14 games."
Yeah,
that's pretty much what it was. I'm like, all right, cool.
And they still have a really strong running game. They do have they have DeForest Buckner and Darius Leonard, who are really good defensive players, so they'll have something. So. I really don't know how to separate them in the Browns, but I would say they're both okay. So now this leaves the Steelers and the Dolphins, and this might be just us being biased, but I feel like we're going to put them ahead of the Dolphins.
Yeah, I still the whole thing is I trust this team to stay competitive despite the division that they're in. Yeah. I wouldn't be that surprised if we basically split these games this year for the most part, just because we're going to be better equipped to deal with the Bengals this year, I think, for sure, on defense. I think our offense will have a better shot of at least keeping pace with them, opposed to just getting blown out in the first half of the game. So that could easily end up splitting. I think they're the most likely to sweep us of the 3, for sure, just because we always play the Ravens so hard, and Lamar hasn't had a lot of success against us. And then the Browns, I don't know who their quarterback is going to be for the games until
it's going to be Jacoby Brissett for most of the season,
right? Or at least a good chunk of it. So if we can stay 500-ish as far as the rest of the division, I think we'll be very competitive. But so I really think that, like you said, from basically, I'd say anybody ranked below 7 could end up anywhere from there, in that range. I think at this point, just because there's so much variance there.
Yeah, there are legitimately 13 teams that could make the playoffs in this conference out of 16.
13 very solidly built teams, I think, at the very bottom level, and then you go up from there. And that's what's going to be so interesting is we kind of assume that there's certain teams that are obviously the most talented teams, have best quarterbacks. They're going to be the ones ultimately that make it happen. Yeah. But with a division or with a conference this talented right now, you already can lose to anybody any week, right? This is just turning that up to 11. Yeah, because you're almost always going to be playing a team that is playoff caliber, at least to some degree. Like they're going to have something about them where you can say, yeah, that team could possibly make the playoffs. You don't really have that very often in the NFL, obviously. Yeah,
and so the funny thing is how people always say, oh, like Mike Tomlin, like they look past teams, and they'll look past teams to get their favorite. They're not favored. They'll look past teams they're favored against. Steelers are not going to be favored against many teams.
They're not going to be favored. Like honestly, I would need to look at the schedules again for all the teams and everything. But like, I honestly think a big factor could be what NFC teams these teams draw.
Yeah, I mean, so the home games. So this is the AFC North teams will face the AFC East and the NFC South. So.
Ooh, okay.
Yep. The NFC South does have some bad teams. The AFC East has at least one bad team.
Yeah. At least one.
They also get the. Oh wait, hang on a second.
Okay.
This is a little. Anyway, okay. So they get to play the AFC West, I think.
Okay.
Oh no, sorry, because they're playing the AFC East. Okay, so at home they'll play the Ravens, Bengals, the Browns, obviously.
Okay.
They'll also play the Raiders, the Patriots, the Jets, the Saints, and the Buccaneers. Those games are at home.
Okay, that could be worse. Buccaneers is tough, but obviously.
On the road, they'll face the Ravens, the Bengals, the Browns, as well as the Falcons, the Bills, the Panthers, the Colts, the Dolphins, and the Eagles.
Okay, I like about half of those games.
So. Yeah, so I mean, I think this team will be probably around 500 if I had to guess.
Yeah,
and with how we expect this conference to beat each other up, being around 500 might be enough.
Could be.
It's just about who you beat head to head. So it could be kind of we thought this race to the playoffs was wild with that tie scenario. Like next year could be even crazier.
Could be, because I wouldn't be surprised if the best team in the conference is again like 11-12 wins.
Yeah.
Like just because again you're going to be in a gauntlet almost every week.
Yeah.
Like it's just going to be hard to churn out a ton of wins in this conference, I think. Like,
yeah, I mean, just looking at the roster, or looking at these games again, I would think that of the home games, they'll be favored probably in most of them because of that home field advantage, but maybe the ones they won't be favored against the Buccaneers.
No,
and then the Raiders and the Patriots might be like a -2 game, and depends on how the season's going, but and when they play those games, and if it's in the winter and they play the Raiders, that's better, obviously. And then I would imagine that all the divisional games will probably be toss-ups.
For the most part. I could see maybe the Bengals being favorites for
Bengals
depending on how early in the season and how good they look at the time. Yeah, so
they'll be underdogs in a decent amount of those. And on the road, I feel like they'll be a road dog against all the divisional opponents, road dog against the Bills, maybe the Colts.
Yeah.
But then, I mean, the Falcons, the Panthers, the Dolphins, the Eagles.
I could see, depending on when we play the Dolphins and what they're looking like, we could also be underdogs there. We'll see, but it's hard to say.
I think we have time to run through a mock draft.
Yeah, I think so too.
All right, I'm going to share my screen for people who are, I don't know if okay, here we go. Chrome tab. Here we go. Okay, so...
Yeah, draft network. All right.
Yeah, it's just set up to do the Steelers. So, and I'm not going to do any trades just because.
No, it's just easier.
Because the Steelers won't trade anyways. So
probably not. No.
All right. So first pick Evan Neal. Oh, that's okay. Well, it's already wrong, but it doesn't really matter for the Steelers just because these are the players who will most likely be gone.
Trevor Penning at 7. Interesting.
Yeah, that might happen, but yeah, I mean the places don't necessarily make sense, but the players going make sense.
Signed to the
All
Eagles.
right. So okay, so we're getting a trade offer from the Buccaneers, in which no,
let's just not do that.
Oh wait, hang on. There's some other offers. So okay, so now we got one from the Chiefs, which has their first round pick, a 3rd round pick, and a 7th round pick. That's not bad.
That's not a bad deal, but I don't know if we would do it. Well, we might trade back. I could see.
I can't see. Hang on. I'm gonna see if I can counter offer. I just want to see. Okay, I want to hide this. I want to see who's on the board.
Yeah.
Okay. Wait, is there
Willis went at 18.
So okay, so Willis is off the board. Kenny Pickett is on the board. I'm not taking Kenny Pickett.
Nope.
Okay, where'd that trade? Now, how do I get the trade back?
Yeah, of course.
I don't know
I
how.
think maybe just hit trade, maybe see if that works.
Okay,
Yep.
cool. That
Okay,
brings it
cool.
back up. All right,
That's
cool.
what I thought.
Okay, so on the board, there's Drake London, wide receiver from USC, Jahan Dotson, Chris Olave. There's a lot of linemen. I don't necessarily think they'll go that direction.
No,
Given who
Burks
they've
is there
signed.
still too.
Oh
See him
yeah,
down there.
Lewis Cine is there, who I like a lot.
Yeah, me too.
Based on how this board has fallen, though, like I would not be opposed to trading back.
Yeah, because there's probably going to be at least 1 or 2 players
Yeah.
of this
Okay.
group
So
that's
let's
still
get
there.
that trade back.
Yeah.
So
they're offering what, first, third, and seventh for, and is the third next year or this year?
Oh yeah, it's there. Okay, good. Yeah.
There you go.
Are they offering next year picks? I didn't see that.
No, I
don't
wasn't
think
sure.
so.
Okay, I wasn't sure if they were. Okay, so first, third, and seventh.
I mean, we're getting 3 picks for 1. I think that's a pretty good deal.
Yeah, I'm happy with that, honestly.
I'm gonna see if. Oh, okay. They just have 7th round picks. Yeah, I'm good with this. All right, so we're gonna accept that offer.
Okay.
Watch, it's their evaluating because I said counter. Okay, they're gonna accept it. Cool.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
So
now we traded back to 29, even though I said we weren't gonna trade.
I mean, that's I could see us doing something like that because
Yeah.
that's something where if they like a lot of guys, if like maybe the quarterbacks they wanted
we're
or
getting another trade offer.
everybody loves
this
picks.
is probably gonna get us out of the first round, which I don't want to do.
Yeah, I want to keep that 5th-year option on whoever.
Yes,
we get,
exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, so both safeties, a lot of the wide receivers went. I think. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
1, 2, 3, 4 receivers went.
Okay.
So that makes but. So Devonta Wyatt from Georgia's on the board. Kenny Pickett's on the board. Don't want him.
No.
Daxton Hill, Lewis. I like Lewis Cine a lot.
Yeah. Man, okay. We have see a couple guys here. I like Daxton Hill a lot, but I don't really know if he'd fit as a true strong safety.
I think Cine is a better fit, even if they bring back Edmonds, because then you can you can still play Cine high, then you can rotate Edmonds in the box. You could even keep Cine as the true single high. Have Minka in the slot and have Edmonds in the box.
Yeah, or like have him come down and like guard tight ends and stuff like that.
Exactly. So I like Cine more because Hill is more of, he can play in the box a little, but he's more slot specific.
Yeah, he played pretty much a slot corner in Michigan. Yeah,
isn't the worst, and also like he is a great athlete. He's an underclassman. Yes. I think they'll just like Cine better because of how hard he hits. Honestly.
Yeah, I mean he also is a more like he has way more experience as a traditional safety, whereas Hill's kind of a projection if you want him to play that.
Yeah, I think so I'm gonna go with Lewis Cine.
Yeah, I'm happy with that.
Here. Okay.
Just seeing.
All right, so I think what do we get? We got a extra third round pick, which is nice.
Oh, Daxton Hill goes to the Chiefs in this. That's interesting.
All right.
They
want to trade down?
No.
No. I don't want to give up
picks.
that many picks, and I don't even think anybody was on the board that I really wanted. So
not this early, no.
Well, the Devonta Wyatt is plummeting.
They love our.
Why
picks,
does everybody want to trade down?
I mean, I don't know. We did, so I can't really say. Oh, Ritter goes to the Texans. That's weird.
That's interesting. That happened to Sam Howell to the Seahawks.
That makes a little bit of sense. I don't want to give up a ton of picks.
These are late round picks. I'm kind of intrigued here.
Yeah, let's see.
I'm going to counter offer C's on the board.
Yeah.
Okay.
See what we got here.
Devonta Wyatt's still on the board, which I don't know if that fits just because I don't know where they're going to play him.
Yeah, because
he's not going to play
nose. If you think to especially.
I don't think any quarterbacks are left that I'm interested in. Nope.
I doubt it.
I don't even really want Carson Strong there, honestly.
Nah.
Okay. Perry Winfrey is not a scheme fit. They don't need a linebacker now. I don't really like Tyler Smith. This is too early for Kenneth Walker. They don't even need him either. DeMarvin Leal doesn't fit. Tariq Woolen would be interesting.
Yeah, he would be.
There's really no need for them to trade up, though. Like I don't
think so.
I don't want to trade up for any of these players.
No, so we can skip that.
Trade. I'm hit resume. Okay, I'm going to decline that.
Okay, looks like we might get to our. Oh, there we go.
Now we're being offered to trade back again.
Right. What do they want to do here?
So they would move up 2 spots. We would move up 11 spots in the 4th round. I don't hate this.
No, I don't hate it because we
only moved back 2 spots.
Yeah,
I'm still not in love with the board, so you might as well.
So.
This is a very trade friendly simulator.
It is, yeah. Interesting.
We're just getting calls off the chain right. Okay, that's I can't drop back that far. Let's see the other offers though. Now these are all like getting out of the round.
Yeah, let's not do that.
Decline.
Okay.
So we got Christian Harris, Isaiah Spiller, Breece Hall, Sean Ryan, Daniel Falele, Jamari Sawyer.
Hmm.
I still think the way they've invested at the offensive line, they're good with who they
Yeah,
have now.
yeah. I don't think they want to spend a high pick on it this year.
Roger McCreary, I think, would be the pick here.
Yeah,
Oh, Travis Jones is on the board, though.
he is. Oh, yeah. He is still.
They didn't go to his pro day.
That's true.
That's more so for the first round.
It's
guys,
true, yeah,
though,
but like I don't think that would, unless again he's going to go in the first, which I think is an outside possibility. Honestly,
I don't think that'll happen. I just don't think he'll make it to this pick.
Yeah, I don't think so. He's going to fall probably somewhere between like 30-ish and 50.
I still think this is really good value for McCreary, and I get that he doesn't have long arms, but you can play him you can play him out. You can play him outside. I think he'll be fine, but you could also make him a really good slot corner. So
I'm happy with that.
I'm good with Roger McCreary here.
Yeah, I want to address D-back mostly, especially right now.
There's also a lot of wide receivers on the board.
Yeah,
still David Bell and John Mechie. Any interest there?
I mean, I like Bell's tape a lot, but his athletic profile is tough to look at.
He's just Juju 2.0.
He could be, yeah. Mechie's interesting because just again, he'd be a completely different skill set than we have right now.
Yeah, he'd be an interesting fit. But I think McCreary is the best value here.
Yeah, he's the best actual
let's
player.
Go with Roger McCreary from Auburn.
Okay,
it's a cornerback there. All right, we've got a little while to wait now.
Unless we get another trade, which we probably will.
Where Travis Jones went, but I don't. He fell off. He went off the board, but I don't see where he went.
Yeah, I didn't see either.
Okay, the Jets are also trying to trade. That's too far.
No, yeah,
and we have to give up 3 picks, so I'm not going to do that.
Good.
Okay, so we're coming up at 84 here. Looking like there's a lot of tight ends on the board.
Yeah, Strong goes to the Vikings. That's interesting.
That wouldn't happen. They just picked up Skylar Thompson in the 3rd. Wait, what happened?
Oh, Falcons.
That's just okay. That's a broken simulation. Hey, our boy, we don't need him anymore though.
No, we don't. But I mean, I'd still be tempted because just in case Bush doesn't work.
They wouldn't do that.
No, they wouldn't do it.
Okay, so I like. There's a lot of picks I like here.
Mm-hmm.
So honestly, any of these tight ends I'd be happy with.
Yeah, get another guy in that room with.
Fedarian Mathis I like as a new nose.
Mm-hmm. Could see that.
James Cook I like a lot.
As that change of pace back, man.
Exactly.
I've taken him a bunch of the mocks I've done in the past couple weeks. So.
All right, so here's I'm looking back. Okay, here's my thought.
Okay.
I think you take Cook here, and I think one of those tight ends will be available at 94.
I would guess so, yeah. At least one of them.
Because looking at the teams that are coming up, they are like the Titans need a tight end, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah,
maybe the Buccaneers, but I think. I don't know. This probably doesn't have. I think at least one of them will make it to the next.
I think so too. Yeah.
Okay, so we're gonna take James Cook, the running back out of Georgia.
Get an actual legitimate RB2 for sure.
Yes,
that's nice.
Okay, tight ends holding strong. Yeah, we're gonna get. All of them are on the board.
Travis Jones just now went.
Oh my god, that's crazy.
Hey, if the Packers could get him and not Clark.
Yeah. Okay.
Forget that.
Okay, so. Oh, wait. Trey McBride is on the board. The number 1 tight end. Okay, let's just take him.
Yeah, I mean, might as well. I mean, if he fell this far, that'd be really good value, honestly.
Yeah, that'd be the guy.
Yeah, I think so. I don't see no
Mark
one else.
I've already picked a corner. I just like him a lot. Right, Trey McBride.
Yeah, I know you like him a lot.
This wouldn't happen, but
no, but hey, if a guy fell, I mean,
yeah,
it's kind of what happened with Friermuth. So
I mean, I'm very happy so far. Lewis Seen, Roger McCreary, James Cook, and Trey McBride. Like those players a lot.
Yeah.
Trading back, getting a lot of ammo to kind of fill out the roster is nice.
Mm-hmm. Mathis just went. Josh Jobe, he's not good. Let's see here.
Do we take Punt
Brandon
God?
Smith just now went.
Do we take Punt God?
Oh man, I mean, drafting a punter back-to-back years is kind of tough.
Do we want to? I'm gonna click counter offer because I want to see who's on the board. Okay. So come on, go away. Okay. So Punt God Matt Arrays is on the board.
Yep. Alec Pierce.
I like Alec Pierce as well
because he would be that big, like the vertical threat, big body guy that we don't have really. That, or at least though, isn't putting used.
If they wanted guard depth, I would like Justin Schaefer a good.
Yeah, I can see that.
I do like Alec Pierce, though. They really don't have a guy like that.
Yeah, I think
This is early for him, but Velus Jones Jr. intrigues me as well. Just
he does too, but I think you could get him.
He doesn't have good hands, but he's fast and he's a good.
He's explosive.
Returner. Yeah. I think. Okay, so if we were to when's the next? I think they want to go back to 131. I think Alec Pierce could be there.
Yeah, I could see one of the Ravens or Cowboys, maybe, or even the Bills. I think could do that.
Okay, so do we want to pull the trigger on Pierce here?
That might be if we want to get him.
Let's see what the trades were.
Because I don't know what they've done. Also, too, I don't know if any of those three have drafted a receiver yet.
I'm gonna click. Actually, I think if I just click resume, it'll show the offers again, or not. Okay, never mind. Let's just go Alec Pierce.
Yeah, that's fine. Okay. Yeah, I think that'd be a good move.
Okay, Alec Pierce out of Cincinnati in the 4th round, which is good.
It's good value for him, I think.
I don't know when the next pick is, but
the Packers just drafted Dameon Pierce, by the way.
Oh, nice. Oh my God, so many.
They're backup to their backup running back.
They also have Kylan Hill. Remember that?
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Well, he's different a little bit from those.
Yeah. So we've gone 3 offensive weapons and 2 defensive backs.
Sounds about right.
Yeah.
Okay. When's our next pick coming up?
I do not know.
I think it's like Is it 180?
I think they don't have a 5th round pick.
No, I don't think so. I wasn't sure if
we might be in the dead period right now.
Could be. Yeah. How high do you think Arise is actually going to go?
I mean, Lance Zierlein said he could go day 2.
I wouldn't be that surprised, but I just wonder if teams are kind of scared off at this point of doing that type of thing.
Yeah.
Because this really hasn't had good success, right?
He's 100 on the board, and we're at pick in the 180s, and he's just not going.
Yeah, I think that
we're almost in the 7th round. I think.
I think his floor is like the 6th. And I feel like at the highest the team could take was like the 4th. But
we're gonna bump and there he goes.
There he goes.
Jaguars makes sense.
Hey, they've taken a guy in the 3rd before, so
yeah.
Linder, right? Or, I forget
all right, so pick 208. We're on the clock.
Okay, who do we got here?
So Matt Hankins is not in the draft.
No. So
can't believe Charlie Kohler's still here.
Yeah.
Let's kind of go. Let's check out positions. So IDL. Right. Chris Hint. Neil Farrell. I like Neil Farrell.
Yep.
He won't be here, but I like that a lot. Let's see. Edge. Gunter is interesting.
Yeah, he is.
Your guy Amari Barno. We can probably get him at 225 though.
You could. I just like him as like a piece you just throw on special teams and tell him to kill people. So.
IOL. Don't love interior picks there.
No, I don't see anybody.
Don't love the tackle picks. Actually, Luke Gaedecke's available. That's surprising. I don't know if that's realistic.
I don't think so.
But he'd be a good flexible player. He could do. We didn't take a quarterback for what it's worth. The options are bad.
Yeah. I don't even know why King is even.
Yeah. I think our best pick is going Neil Farrell.
I think that's
nose tackle.
That's probably like the combination of need and value here. It's probably right. At least I don't think he'll be there.
Yeah.
At this point,
so we're gonna go with Neil Farrell from LSU.
Mm-hmm.
So he'll be the new nose tackle.
And we got 225 coming up, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Another trade.
We're still okay. So we would trade up and we would give up 2 7ths. I don't really want to do that.
I don't see at this point.
I don't love the board. Yeah.
No, I mean if Gaedecke falls to us, that'd be cool.
Exactly. All right, we're gonna decline that.
He could at this point. The way
with how this board is falling.
Leon O'Neal just went.
Oh, yeah, he didn't have a good pro day.
No, he didn't. Unfortunately, I was hoping he'd test like 4 5s with a 40, but
Tyquan Thornton, Isaiah Polomau, Marion Williams, Kyler McMichael. All right, I think we might be able to get Gaedecke.
I think we can. Yeah, I think so. I didn't see him go unless we missed him.
He's a tackle. He's a tackle.
Yeah, tackle.
Okay. Oh, yeah, that's okay.
There he is. Okay.
And we got to pick again at 233.
All right, and then 241.
Oh my gosh! Wow, we have so many. We killed this.
Yeah, I think we did personally, but
all right. So let's see. We've taken a corner, a safety, a running back, a tight end, a wide receiver, a nose tackle, and an offensive lineman.
Okay.
What do we think we need?
I honestly, this is the top remaining guys,
I like Charleston Rambo a lot.
You talked about.
There's Amari Barno.
That even one of those two I think would be good. I think that.
So There's all the good.
Yeah.
I think the wide receiver depth is going to be better here.
This is true.
Maybe not. I don't know.
Well, who's left at this point?
Let's see what they got a wide receiver. We already taken one. That is.
Yeah, it's true.
Kevin Austin would be interesting because he's an athletic freak.
Yeah, just take him as a project or something.
Ja'Cory Roberson, I like. Javon Hiley's a good player.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, let's see what Edge has. Edge has Amari Barno, Ali Fayyad. I think I'd rather take Barno.
Yeah, and let's see who's left at receiver.
See who's left at receiver. All right, so we're gonna take Amari Barno.
I do think, especially if we don't get a free agent receiver here shortly, I would like us to double dip at that position.
Yeah. Okay, so we're gonna take Barno out of Tech as kind of a freaky edge rusher type, and then
see what he can do.
See if Rambo's still on the board. I also like Trey Turner a lot. So
yeah, one of those two would be.
Well, we got Rambo. So
all right, let's go.
Great name too.
Got to pick the name sometimes. This point
absolutely, no question. All right, I think that was our last pick. So this was a very good draft in my mind.
I think so too. I'm obviously a couple guys where I don't see them being there, but that's what happens. So you kind of have to work with that.
Yeah. All right, so we're done with that.
Okay.
All right, so let's see our picks, user picks. All right, so we traded down in the first. We still got Lewis Seen.
Yep.
Got Roger McCreary in the second. So you've got a new strong safety that can either be the replacement of Terrell Edmonds or a really nice extra piece back there that can play the run and the pass very well. Get Roger McCreary, new slot corner, maybe play him outside a little bit. Him and Sutton have that versatility.
Yep.
Cook is a fantastic running back too. Get him and Najee on the field at the same time.
Oh my God.
Trey McBride at 94, the best tight end of this draft. Incredible. That's probably not realistic, and I don't think they would make that pick.
No, but still there with
him and Freiermuth is a lethal combo.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And you get Alec Pierce at 127, a different kind of wide receiver, like a true vertical threat. Like this allows you to move
Chase into the slot.
Yeah,
that would be huge. I would love that because I think Pierce could play that role well enough to allow us to do that. So
then at 208, you get Neil Farrell, who's a nose tackle. Has played all along LSU's defensive line, so he'll be versatile as well. Luke Gadicke at 225 as an offense tackle, but he'll probably play guard. And I know they wanted to play center at the Senior Bowl, so another versatile guy. Amari Barno at 233, a developmental edge player that's just an athletic freak, can help you on special teams early, be your edge 4. And then Charleston Rambo at 241, who's a speed demon receiver that can get vertical. And he's a little similar to Deontay, more just straight line, not necessarily like great route runner or after the catch or whatever, but just fast, gets open with that. It gets open down the field. So I like this class a lot.
Yeah, I think that would fill a lot of pretty much the rest of the holes we have in the roster at this point and give us some upside.
No quarterback, but
that's the one thing that is probably why it's not realistic on top of a couple of guys falling farther than they should. Yeah. But that was just, given what we had, I think that was good.
I think they're going to, from what I've heard, I think they are going to take a quarterback in the first 2 rounds. Just that's kind of the indication they've given that they want to have 4 going into camp, and I would assume they want to draft one that's going to be competing to be the starter. So I really don't think they're going to trade up to get Willis, because it seems like they're saying like if he falls to us, we will take him.
Which that makes sense. I mean, if he falls that far, the value's good.
Yes,
so it's
they're still he could go 2 overall, which is crazy.
Exactly. Yeah. So the thing I don't want them to do, and what I'm a little bit concerned about, is pretty much the only guy that I'd feel comfortable taking that high at this point is Willis, just because the upside is there. Everyone else, like Howell, is a guy that if you take, like, I think he can become the starter at some point. So there's that value, but I just don't want to settle on like Corral or Ritter or whatever. I just don't want to settle for that.
I still like Howell a lot. I think you need more along the developmental type. Honestly, it wouldn't shock me if they took Ritter, because I think Ritter could realistically compete with Trubisky this year and be serviceable. Now the question is, do you want to use that first round pick on that? And it could happen. I don't know if they will. Everybody's like, oh, like the Steelers are so easy to read just because they think they're just going to pick Willis and or they're going to take a quarterback. And I really don't think they're going to take Pickett, because he's just another Trubisky, but he's not a long-term, or he's not a franchise quarterback. He's not really going to elevate this team or anything.
No.
So I don't think they would make that move. They seem to really like Corral. I just don't.
I don't see it. I don't see it. So I kind of the same thing with Ritter. I don't see him very much either. But at least not in the first round. So it's tough. Like I just don't want them to settle for a guy like that in the first. Like if somebody falls to you in the second round that you still really like, awesome, great. If that's Ritter or whoever, but as long as I just don't want them to use their premium top pick on a guy that wasn't their first option at quarterback.
Right.
Like I don't want them to do that. So we'll see. But
all right. Well, that'll do it for us for this week. We'll be back next week. Not sure exactly what we're going to talk about, but
we'll find something to talk about.
Maybe they'll sign Terrell Edmonds and we can
that would be great. Yeah.
That.
We'll talk about
or
that.
Make some other signings. That'll be interesting. But in the meantime, Shane, let people know where they can find you and your work.
Find me at Shane Kubis on Twitter. And something that's coming up tomorrow, actually, is very interesting. I'll be a part of is a live mock draft with a bunch of people on Twitter, where I will have the Panthers pick with 6 picks. So I have some thinking to do on that one.
That is an interesting place to be in.
Yes. So we'll see how that goes. But check that out. I will be tweeting that out, I'm sure, whenever it comes out. And then also at Steelers ATB with Twitter.
And you can find me there. You can find me at Mitchell T. Wolf, WOLFE on Twitter. Make sure you're following our personal accounts. Make sure you're following Around the Block on YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, Facebook, everywhere you can find it. Thank you for tuning in, and we hope to have you back next time.